I don't know if everyone can see my screen.
Yes. Let me
Okay, awesome. So welcome everyone. Tonight's event is a presentation on research psychology and some of the information with regards to honors and your future careers as a potential research psychologist. Okay, so today we'll be covering a couple of different topics. I'll start by just going over some basics about the different um, applications at the different universities and their requirements. Then we'll go into some information about the research psychology field. And then the most exciting part is a presentation by Dr. Liccardo and Mr. Troskie. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And then you guys will have about 10 minutes to ask questions after they both present. So just a couple of housekeeping things. Please do keep your cameras off and your mics muted, unless you'd like to be in the recording and you want to wave at YouTube. But please keep your mics muted just so we don't have any feedback. And also please save all questions until the end so that we don't interrupt the presentations. Okay, so these are just some very basics. This document or these slides will be shared with you guys afterwards via email. So don't stress about writing anything down. You can just kind of look at the pretty little slides. So we've just kind of included the main four universities. So the University of Pretoria, WITS, UJ, and UCT. The opening dates for their honors application programs, some of the program entry requirements, as well as some of the modules that are offered. So obviously we're starting with UP because that's where we're all at and hopefully where most of us want to go for honors. So this is just kind of a breakdown of everything with regard to the honors program for psychology at UP. And then we have for WITS as well. You'll see WITS opens a bit later. They only open in about a month or so. Same with the program entry requirements as well as the different modules offered. Then there's UJ as well, same thing. They also open quite a bit later than UP. For those of you that don't know, UP's honors applications have already opened. I hope everyone does know that. For those of you guys that are struggling, on the 17th of May, there will be a presentation on how to apply for honors via the portal. So just keep a lookout for details regarding that or sign up for that if you are struggling. But yeah, here's everything about UJ and here's everything about UCT. We couldn't find the program requirements, so that might need to take, you guys might need to do your own research for that, but this is the general stuff. Oh, we've also included something about financing options, just for anyone interested in things like bursaries or financial aid. So this website's a great website to, it has a whole list of all sorts of different bursaries for all sorts of different fields, but we have listed some four bursaries that do kind of apply to the psychology field that you guys might be interested in looking into. I don't know if you can see the one in yellow. It's the Gauteng Department of Social Development bursary. So you guys can look that up or just click on the link to this website when the presentation is sent through to you, so you guys can kind of peruse and see if there's any bursaries that you meet the requirements for. Okay, and then now on to the exciting stuff. So we'll start with the basics about what research psychology is, which I'm sure Dr. Liccardo will cover a lot more in detail. This is just a very basic, very, very basic outline. They're research psychologists apply skills in statistics, research design, computing, and data analysis in an attempt to answer a variety of hypotheses in the field of psychology. They work in a wide range of sectors, and also it does discuss, you need an undergrad degree and honors and a master's as well, if I'm not mistaken. But again, Dr. Liccardo will go into that in significantly more detail. We have included some very rough, and when I say very rough, I mean very rough estimations, just so you kind of get an idea of what a starting salary within the field looks like, as well as how many hours you'd roughly be working per week. And then the universities that offer a degree specifically in relation to research psychology are UNISA, Stellies, UP, WITS, UCT, and the University of KwaZulu-Natal. But yes, now it's on to the part that you guys are actually all here for, which is the presentations. So I will now hand over to Dr. Liccardo. There's a beautiful picture of her, along with all of her details, her qualifications, her room at the Humanities Building, her office, as well as her contact details if you do need to contact her. Okay. Whenever you're ready, Dr. Liccardo, you can let me know and I'll switch over to your presentation. Please tell me that I didn't talk that whole time with no one hearing me.
No, we can hear you. We can.
Okay.
Dr. Liccardo, I think you're muted.
Am I muted or is Dr. Liccardo muted?
No, Tamara, you're there. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, we can hear you now, Dr. Liccardo.
Now you're muted again. Sorry.
Guys, technical difficulties. This isn't an easy.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
There we
Yes.
go. We can hear you.
Okay, it just keeps muting automatically. I don't know. Okay, so hopefully you can all hear me. But yes, Tamara, I'm ready. You can put up my slides. Thank you so much. Excellent, great.
I need to zoom in on a specific part.
Okay, yes, yeah, that would be helpful if I'm going to talk through maybe the different questions and the different stages.
Okay.
And when I do, yes, if you can zoom in, that would be great. Okay, so Tamara, thank you so much. That was a very useful introduction, and it's been wonderful to witness how you and your team are breathing new life into the Student Psyche Society. So, yeah, I'm very happy to make kind of a small contribution to this to the process, and I'm glad that we have an hour. That means I think I'll take my time and just expand on key points that I think are important to emphasize. So Tamara, I'm just going to follow your lead. Just tell me when I'm going to stop talking and then I'll stop talking. So from my side, even though we've been online for 20 minutes, a warm welcome to everyone, and thanks for joining in the session today. I usually kind of begin presentations by asking the audience, what your expectations are. But I think based on your feedback, Tamara and her team kind of asked me to present on my journey of becoming a research psychologist, difficulties faced during the journey, and then pros and cons, advice on how to enter the field, like the whole process, and then a typical day or where research psychologists work in the real world. So I thought that, maybe the best way to kind of organize these prompts that Tamara asked me to speak about today is if maybe we could think about, research psychology in terms of the, those common 5W questions. So what, why, who, when, how, where. So I think just by organizing this talk around these questions, I think it just might help us wrap our head around the profession. So as you can see by the yellow highlights, that's the structure of the talk. I'm going to talk about what is this profession called research psychology, and why become a research psychologist? Like, why is it important? And then also in terms of personal characteristics, like generally who becomes a research psychologist. And then I think the focus of the presentation will be how and when, in terms of the timeline. What's the timeline of of becoming a research psychologist, and then where do research psychologists actually work in the real world? So these are kind of the outcomes of the talk. So hopefully you'll kind of leave with answers to these questions and just gain more clarity about research psychology, what the whole process in general entails. But obviously I'll address any questions that you might have during the Q&A. So also I just wanted to mention that just to try and make this talk as interesting and memorable as possible, what I tried to do was organize these 5 or 6 key W questions in the form of this visual map. So I think what I've tried to do with this visual map is just depict the collective journey of becoming research psychologists. So I think it just might be more helpful if I talk about the collective journey. But I mean, obviously, I'll still share my personal experiences as examples, while I talk about the different stages. So, I mean, I did upload this on Google Drive. I can share the link just in case you maybe just want to open it on your side or just keep a copy of it. Let me just put in the link. Okay, I put it in the chat. I put the link in the chat box. So if you want a copy of it, it's there. And also, I just wanted to mention that I kind of spent a short amount of time preparing for this presentation. So this diagram is a working document. I put it in Google Drive, and if I missed anything, I will add to the diagram. So you'll see as time goes on that it might be updated. But I mean, I do think it's pretty comprehensive. Sorry?
I think it looks beautiful.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think visually, so yeah, hopefully it'll just make the next 20 minutes interesting. And as you can see, I've divided the collective journey around the 5 questions, like I said, but the focus will kind of be on how and when, kind of the timeline of becoming a research psychologist. So that will be the focus. And so I thought maybe what we could do then in the next few minutes is hypothetically walk this journey together. But I mean, I think because we only have 20 minutes, it will feel more like a sprint, but still, I think the aim today is just to cover the breadth of this journey in the form of these questions and stages, and not really go into depth because we don't really have the time to go into depth for each stage. But that's the reason why I've put the links at the bottom, because if you want to know more information about a particular stage, then at least you can just click on the link. So I suppose this image is more kind of a map information, an information graphic than anything else. But anyway, so also just to, I'm still prefacing the talk, I think also maybe I thought it might be fun if we use the metaphor of hiking, because I mean, I think that we can really compare the process of becoming a research psychologist to this uphill journey of climbing this mountain, as you can see in the map. And also I think as research psychologists, what we always trying to do, Tamara, and to answer your question about like the typical day of a research psychologist, I think that's what we do, we try and spend our time developing skills so that we can be able to go more and more in depth into a topic and try and understand, meanings that are beneath, the surface level. And that's what I try to depict with those roads pointing downward. Like that's what research, I suppose, is in my, view, that we're always trying to reach deeper levels of understanding a particular topic, so that maybe, we could build on and even create new knowledge that could possibly contribute to generate greater heights of human understanding, and that's depicted by the top of the mountain. So yeah, so what I'm going to do today, like very briefly, is just try and provide a roadmap. This, like I've just called it, a trail guide. So these are coordinates that will, I think, maybe help you navigate and keep your bearings along this long journey. So yeah, it will just give a bigger picture of the whole journey of climbing up this mountain and reaching the goal of becoming a research psychologist, if that's what you want to do. And also just wanted to mention that, so this metaphor is also inclusive, whether you are a person with a disability or not. This trail guide and these base camps, they have the facilities to accommodate for everybody's needs. And then, yeah, I suppose just the last point, another reason why I think this metaphor will be helpful for us to think with is because it also then just reminds us about, it makes us think about, what are the various roles and responsibilities, during this hike. So, you would be the hikers who have embarked on this journey, but obviously it's not just an individual journey, it's a team effort. So you would work with your peers that are here today, or the other peers that are not here today. You support each other along the way, because it's not a race to the top. I think it's the becoming with each other during the process climbing up the mountain and reaching your goals collectively, I think is important. And then also we can think of maybe the trail guides as the HODs in our departments. I think you're all from psychology, right? Or maybe, or not, or maybe from different disciplines, but the HODs would be the kind of trail leaders from whichever department you're from, but also your research supervisors during your honours and your master's degree. And then lastly, just quickly, the base camp. I think, as you can see, I've tried to link the questions with the base camp. And I think that's where we, the faculty members we're here to nurture and to support your academic developments. And I mean, if you think of just the purpose of the base camps, it's to provide shelter, food and, supplies, just what you need to keep going. So, and that's also a place, as you can see by the questions, where you'll stop what you're doing and then reflect on the key questions and then, go in depth into a subject area and learn and grow and change, and then just keep going on and on until, you reach, the next base camp. Okay, so let's, I suppose, start by the starting line. So I thought the starting line, this is where we ask the what, the why, and the who are research psychologists. Okay, so first, what is research psychology? So I just thought maybe the best way to approach this question is by asking, how does the Professional Board of Psychology at the Health Professions Council define the profession of research psychology? So that's a good place to start. So I'm just going to read this quotation. It's taken from the minimum standards for training of research psychology. And I quote, this is how they define what research psychology is. So research psychology is a category within professional psychology concerned with the development and application of research methodologies and the advancement of psychological knowledge and the understanding of human behavior. So this research underpins much of the teaching and applications of psychology, and it provides evidence base for psychological theory and the effectiveness of treatments, interventions, psychometric tests, and teaching methods. Close quotes. So in other words, we as research psychologists, we, as I mentioned, we apply and we develop research methodologies to examine questions with the aim of advancing psychological knowledge that will help us better understand and explain human behavior. So again, a typical day in the life of a research psychologist would be, spent asking critical questions about the world around us, reviewing literature, conceptualizing and designing research studies, co-collecting data, analyzing results, the whole research process, reaching conclusions, and sharing the research findings with the policy community. So in other words, this basically explains why research psychology is so important, such an important category within professional psychology, because it's this research that research psychologists do, and obviously clinical psychologists and counseling psychologists. I mean, we all do research, but it's this research that kind of underpins the scientific standing of the field of psychology. So it's this research evidence that supports applied work in psychology, and it's this kind of evidence base that supports the effectiveness of treatments, programs, teaching methods, and so forth. Oh, Tamron, I don't know what happened. Oh, I don't see the presentation anymore, but let me continue.
I apologize. Sorry, the other meeting is having a bit of an emergency.
Okay.
So please do continue. I apologize. I'll be back.
Okay.
Do you want me to share that document?
Yes, please, Morgan. That would be great.
I don't know if Tamron's introduced me yet. I am on the Psyche EC, so I'm trying to help out with that.
Yes,
Okay.
I think I do. I saw the whole team was CC'd in the email, so yeah, that's, yes, if you can share it, Morgan, that would be great. And then while Morgan shares the presentation, I thought, now I'm going to talk about who is drawn to research psychology. Maybe this is a question that you can answer. So, like, what do you think in terms of personal traits? Like, you know, personal traits of a research psychologist. What do you think that, you know, those personal traits would be? Great, thank you, Morgan. Great. Yeah, so maybe the chat box. So curiosity. What are some of the traits that you think you possess that would make you a good research psychologist? Anybody? Okay, great. Determination, definitely. I can't read your names because I just see your surnames, but thank you. Yes, curiosity, determination. What are some of the other qualities that would, you know, that would, you know, make, yeah, like, is there any determination still? Anyone else? Yeah, please don't be shy. What are the traits of a research psychologist, do you think? Investigative, definitely. Yeah, okay, well, basically, you know, I think research psychologists, I remember Dr. Martin, when I was talking to the honors group, asked me this question, and I thought it was an important question, like, how do you identify, how do you know whether you're somebody that would be interested in research psychology? Curiosity, yes, and I think it's those kind of people who have the determination, who like to investigate and solve problems, who are curious, who are really inspired by kind of the life of knowledge, who have open-mindedness, exactly, who, in addition to open-mindedness, they love this open-ended process of exploring the unknown. They love to experiment with maybe new ideas and discover new connections, making meaning, and just, you know, reimagining what different worlds and futures could possibly be like. So that's the starting line. You know, the what, the why, and the who are research psychologists. So let's move then to the next question: how and when to become a research psychologist. So, like I said, this is going to be the focus of the presentation. I'm going to talk about how to become a research psychologist and what's the timeline involved. So, yeah, Morgan, maybe we could go to your stage one. We are there, yes, so great. So obviously, as you all know, stage one would be to, you know, do your bachelor degree and you major in psychology, or even a accredited Bachelor of Psychology, a BPsych degree. And here, I mean, I just also wanted to mention these stages that I'm going to be talking about. I'm just speaking from the University of Pretoria. I haven't taken notes of the requirements from other institutions. So, and then stage two, you would apply for your honours, get accepted into your honours, and then at the end, once you finish your honours, your average would be, it would be at least 70% in order for you to be able to apply for an MA in research psychology. Okay, and then stage three. So yeah, I thought, Jenny, just because Tamron asked me also to give examples from my own life, my own journey of becoming a research psychologist. So what I did was I did a BA honours at the University of Johannesburg. I majored in philosophy, and also Tamron mentioned, you know, what are the cons or the difficulties faced along the way. I think, I mean, this is one of the difficulties we faced, is we're never 100% sure, like, what field we think will be, you know, right for us. And obviously, you know, it's a big decision. So, I mean, I was interested in research, psychology, philosophy, but I also loved entrepreneurship. So, but I was leaning more toward research psychology than industrial psychology because I didn't love psychometric testing. So then I decided to do a BCom degree at UNISA, so that I could learn more about entrepreneurship and business management. And then I applied for an MA psychology at Wits. So I thought, just in case anybody in the audience is thinking about applying for an MA in research psychology at UP, now I'm kind of marketing the program a bit, but what I wanted to do was just put this in I'm going to put this in the chat box. It just, yeah, so that's all the information that you need, I think, to apply for a MA for the MA program at UP. As you know, the closing date is on the 31st of May. So if you go to step 3, you just click on that link. You'll, I'm sure you already know this. You can download an instruction letter, and it provides all the information that you need. And then what we will do, the selection process will take place between the 15th to the 17th of August. And like you can see, I put it in the chat. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. If you want to set up an online meeting, I'm also happy to do that. And another thing I also wanted to, so then once you've applied and once you've, if you're accepted, then you would obviously register. And then I also wanted to mention that there's the Humanities Postgraduate Guide, which contains, I suppose, all the information and all the forms that you would need for the duration of your studies. So again, I'm going to put that in the chat box, just in case you want to start preparing kind of beforehand. So that's that's it. So I've posted it. Great. So that's the link to the Humanities Postgrad Guide, but you'll also see on the map, I've put all the links there as well. And then also I wanted to mention that many potential applicants have been asking me before they apply, they just want to know what is the structure of the program, what can they expect, like what modules will be offered and so forth. So, in case you're thinking of applying, it might be helpful if I just quickly go through this information so that you know what the program entails. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about the purpose and the outcome of the degree, and then the structure of the degree. So basically, the purpose and the outcome of the degree, it's at the end, it's basically to equip you with the necessary skills and the knowledge for you to become specialist researchers in psychology. So by the end of the degree, you would have demonstrated, the mastery of these research skills. And how you would have done that is by, learning how to write research proposals, by designing and conducting a research project in the form of your mini dissertation, presenting, the findings, and also during, this process of kind of seeing your project through, you're also developing project management and monitoring skills. So, and then in terms of the coursework parts of the program, so you would also be able to apply theoretical knowledge, which you will have covered in the various modules in your particular context. So you would use this theory from these modules in the qualitative and quantitative data interpretation in your mini dissertations, and you'd use the theory to explain your research findings. And then basically, so the program, the way it's structured is so that you are able to meet the requirements in order for you to be able to register as research psychologists with the Health Professions Council. And basically, these theoretical and these research skills will open up a wide array of career opportunities for you, but I'll talk about that when we get to stage 7. And then, so that's basically the purpose and the outcome of the degree. And then in terms of the structure of the degree, some people are not aware of this, but it's a full-time program. It's 2 years. It's a 2-year program, and what you do in the first year is dedicated to the theoretical component, so that's where you would do all your modules. And in addition to that, you would have completed your research proposal. And then in year 2, you would, after you get ethical clearance, you start the data collection and process, and then write up your mini dissertation and submit it for examination. And in addition to that, you would also be doing your internship. So each component counts 50%. So year 1, theoretical component 50%, and in year 2, your mini dissertation and internship 50%. And then, okay, hopefully this is helpful, but yeah, I'm just talking, but Morgan, like I said, when I need to stop talking, just tell me to stop. Right. Okay, so I thought also it would be interesting for you to know what courses that you would do. So the first course would be obviously be research methodology. You would be not introduced, because you would have been introduced to this quantitative and qualitative methodology in your honours year, but here in masters you go more in depth, but also mixed methods as well. So this research methodology module would cover the theoretical underpinnings of the methodology, the research design and approaches, data collection analysis, research ethics, and as well as the different kinds of software that you would use to analyze data. So that's the one course you would do. The other course would be psychometrics. Another course would be psychological theory. So you would, there are courses in positive psychology, cognitive and behavioral neuroscience, in environmental psychology, social psychology, indigenous psychology, and critical social psychology. And then another module would be project management. So here you would be introduced to critical community research theory, as well as program monitoring and evaluation, and policy developments as well. And I think that's, for me, very important. Again, just to be true to what Tamron asked me to do, to give you an example of my own journey, my own experiences. I suppose, yeah, this is how I approach my social psychology research course, master's course, through problem-based learning. So what the master students do is they identify and then they design a mini research project around a particular societal need or challenge that's facing South Africa. And then what they do is apply a meta-ethnography to, they either apply the meta-ethnography to synthesize qualitative research on the particular topic, or a meta-analysis to evaluate the results of previous quantitative research studies on the topic. But then at the end of the project, what I ask them to do is to summarize the research findings and the recommendations in the form of a policy brief, which they now share with different policy communities. So for me, I think emphasizing the utility of research is important. And in addition to that, I think also what's important, and what we try to do at UP, is to kind of use this module, psychological theory, to encourage students to appropriate theory, or appropriate, the threshold concepts, so that they can also develop their identities as research psychologists. So again, in social psychology, what I ask the master students to do is to develop a research portfolio, their own research portfolio, and I ask them questions like, what is your origin story of becoming a researcher? What are the kinds of questions that keep you up at night? What are the topics, the research topics that you're passionate about? And then also, like, how and why does that connect to the chosen, the pressing societal need or challenge that they've chosen for their research project? And then I ask them just to write out their research philosophy, and also what is their vision for their future career and vocation. So that's just an overview of the courses that you would do at UP. And then let's go to stage 5. So in addition to that, like I said, year 1, you would do the coursework, as well as work on your research proposal. So as you can see on the map, I've divided this into a number of steps. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but yeah, so obviously the first thing you would do is, once you register, or one of the first things is you and your supervisor would complete the memorandum of agreement. And I was actually speaking to postgrads on Monday about this for the House Humanities. And so there's so much to actually say about this step, because it's such an important document. It really forms the basis for the co-responsibility of supervision. But maybe, like I said, I don't have, I'm sure, much time, so I'm not going to, maybe it'll come up in the question and answer session. But again, Tamron, I'm asked if I can talk about the pros and the cons of the profession. And for me, I would think that, in my opinion, this is one of the major pros of the profession. Well, I suppose any profession actually. It's the, you know, the research, your research supervisors. I think they literally change the trajectory of the sense of who you are and your life. So yeah, I've just been fortunate to have research supervisors in my master's, my PhD, and postdoctoral studies where I just wouldn't be not only where I am today, but I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for it's not, I suppose, just supervision, but kind of their mentorship and their generosity of spirit. So yeah, so supervision is just such a wonderful opportunity to support you through your research process. And it's really a kind of a collaborative and a relational and a supportive and inspiring and even a transformative experience. So again, Tamron asked any tips. One of my tips would be to research, Google potential supervisors who you want to work with before you actually apply. And if you have the opportunity to maybe choose the person that you want to work with, because they can really have a lasting impact on your life. And then the other steps, I'm not going to go through that, obviously, then I think I am going into too much detail. But yeah, so you just write a research proposal during your first year, and then the readers would give you feedback, and then you would present it, and then right at the end of the year, you would submit it to the ethics, the faculty research ethics committee, and then you would be provided, if it's accepted, an ethics protocol number, and that will give you the go-ahead to do the data collection. All right, and then stage.
I sincerely apologize for interrupting. I was just wondering, in the next 2 or 3 minutes or so, you could perhaps wrap up just so that
Yes, that's perfect. No, okay, that's so nearly done. That's, I have, I think, let's say another 2-3 minutes. And then, so stage 6, like I said, that's the mini dissertation. Year 2, you do the fieldwork, data collection, and then you would write up and finalize your mini dissertation. As you can see, I just put it in inverted commas because it's not really a separate stage. You also, while you write your proposal, you're also writing up your mini dissertation as well. And then I also wanted to just mention that that you'll see on the mountain, this stage, there's a kind of a sharp turn and a long stretch. And also, if you look at the roads pointing downward, that's what you do when we do field work and data collection and analysis. That's when you're actually, writing and going in depth. So then you finish your dissertation, and then you submit it to for examination. You'll also write a journal article from that, and then so that's that. And then stage 7, it's the internship. So basically, there's nothing much to say about this. It's a 1 year, 12-month. And there's also, like you'll see at the bottom, I've added links to an internship hand guide, so you can read that in your own time. But you would do an internship for 12 months, either at a HPCSA accredited internship site, or not. Like you can do an internship at an institution as long as the program is approved. You submit it to the HPCSA, and they approve it. And then, so basically then you do the internship, write the board exam, and then you register as a research psychologist. And then I think just the two more questions. So where do research psychologists work? And Johan actually will talk more about this, but there is a study I maybe wanted to just share with you, because there's this person by the name of Candice Lee Ratcher. She did a mini dissertation, and her mini dissertation she did a mini dissertation about like it's titled after the degree, Research Psychology in the Real World, and she tracked 122 former research psychology master students to determine, you know, the career paths that they took. So if you're interested, you can, I think I also put it in I'll just type it there. I put the link in the chat box, so you can always just read through that whole research study. It's very, very informative. But basically, you'll see she says she, you know, reported that the research psychologists go on to work in academia or health, social research, marketing, corporate research, monitoring, evaluation, and psychometrics. And then lastly, okay, I'm done now. So whether or not to pursue research psychology. So I mean, hopefully the presentation was helpful, just to provide a sense of the whole journey. And I also just wanted to mention that, so, you know, what personally, what it would mean to you to reach the peak of this metaphorical mountain, whatever that means to you. I mean, I just hope that you get there again and again, because I'm sure we have many metaphorical mountains that we climb. And I just wanted to leave you with this quote that I will put in the chat box. And thank you so much for your attention. And Morgan, over to you.
Is Tamron here?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Oh, yes. You're in charge of line of how things are going, so I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Liccardo. I was listening to all of that, and even though I'm not even going to be doing a degree in psychology, that made me kind of rethink a little bit. So I'm very interested in everything that you spoke about. I hope everyone who is listening found it informative. So that's more of a, you know, professional perspective, but now we're going to hand over to Mr. Johann Troskie. I feel like I'm saying that very wrong. He is the, if you guys can see my screen, I did have to steal this picture from your Facebook, Johan, I apologize. He is the class representative for the Master's Research Psychology degree. So whenever you're ready, you may present.
Hi, everyone. I am the famous Johan Troskie, as can be seen in the picture. And what I would like to do is I would kind of just like to spend a bit of time and just maybe talk about, very briefly discuss why I wanted to go into research psychology, and also maybe just maybe talk about why I think a few of you might not be as interested into going into it, and maybe why that should be taken up for reconsideration. So I chose to study psychology for the same reason I think a lot of people chose to study this field, which was to ultimately help people and to do it with therapy and counseling. In fact, I think a lot of people have this kind of idea of a psychologist as this Freudian figure sitting on a couch taking notes and listening to people talk about whatever issues they're going through. And maybe that's why some of you wanted to do this as well. That's why I wanted to do this. And that's originally why I wanted to go into undergrad, why I studied this in undergrad. But we are talking about research psychology, and here I am. I'm in the very fortunate position of not only studying to become a research psychologist, but also being the sort of representative of the people in my class. So obviously, since then and since now, things have changed a bit. I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but in the middle of my undergrad, I think especially in my third year, I realized that while I really liked the idea of psychology, I really liked what I was studying, I wasn't always that fond of the idea of doing therapy every day. Now, that's not, of course, to say that there's anything wrong with that. I think that the world needs more therapists and more people who can help others, especially with psychological issues. I just realized it wasn't for me. But I was left with this sort of problem of liking psychology, but not liking the application of it that much. And at the time, I was also very fortunate to study physics and mathematics, doing the same third year process as well. And it kind of just connected very well. I liked the research sciencey part of math. I liked the psychological part of psychology, and it mixed together. I wanted to do something that combined both. I asked around, I Googled, and that's how I found research psychology. And that's kind of my brief experience of why I wanted to do this. But that's a very one-off experience. I don't think you necessarily need to study anything in STEM just to decide whether you want to actually go into research or not. So what I kind of want to do now is I kind of want to talk about two things that especially put me off research when I considered it for the first time. The first thing would definitely be having sort of the research, social research module that I think a lot of you may have had in undergrad or in your honors year this year. The class itself wasn't terrible. It was just a situation of having so many classes dedicated to psychological topics like personality types, mental disorders, et cetera, and you can link all of that to this idea of the therapist sitting in the chair. And now you have this one class and you have this one lecturer telling you what the difference between qualitative and quantitative methodology is. And maybe you've had that class and you've kind of been thinking, what am I doing here? Why am I studying this? And I'll admit, I was there too. But the cool thing about research is it's something that kind of surprises you. It's this thing that you yes. Oh, sorry. It's this thing that you're not sure how you feel about it until one day you have this eureka moment and you realize that all these methodologies and these philosophies and these concepts, all they do is they make it possible for you to answer a question, to solve a problem. After all, you can't really build a house before you know how to use a hammer, and you can't solve problems without knowing how to find the answers. And that's what these methodologies do. That's the purpose of it. It may seem abstract while you're studying it, but once you get to that point where you realize what the benefit of it is, you kind of realize, wow, this is actually quite interesting. At least that was what it was for me, and maybe some of you feel the same way. And the second thing that really made me sort of hesitant about studying this was I didn't really know what the options were. Now, of course, Dr. Liccardo earlier did discuss some of the career options, but I'd really like to go into detail about that because I think if you think about a researcher, you kind of have this idea of someone working for university, writing papers, writing dissertations, giving lectures. And that's definitely one of the options that you have, but it's not the only option. There are so many different career opportunities for research psychologists out there. Research psychologists can work in the military, for example, and do research and studies on physiological, psychological, and social variables that impact the health and performance of Army members. They can work in sports and do research on how athletes can improve their health and well-being. You can work in the education sector and help improve the quality of education in the country, or if you're at that level, maybe even globally. You can do environmental research where you try and shape how people feel and think about environmental crises. You can work for humanitarian organizations and help people who are going through awful conditions and try and get them in a better place. You can even work for corporations as market researchers and do research on products and services and how they influence the people around the corporation. As you can hopefully I've sort of indicated that there's so much you can do with research psychology other than just being in the academic field, which once again, there's nothing wrong about being an academic. I would love to work for the university one day, but it just goes to show that with this degree, there's so much you can achieve with it. And you don't have to be worried about being too niche to be employable. I, of course, won't make any promises about definite employability, but there are jobs there. There are options there. There are opportunities there. And I think that that should be taken into consideration if you want to think about what you want to do with it. I want to finish off by just summarizing everything by saying that I genuinely think research psychology is a great opportunity for anyone who enjoys some of the things that I talked about, especially if you enjoy reading or writing or learning or doing studies or just improving your knowledge in general. And even if you want to help people, research psychologists help people every day by doing research on things that improve the quality of life for people. And maybe you don't enjoy that. Maybe you don't enjoy the research aspect of it. And that's fine. If you want to go into clinical psychology or counseling psychology, be my guest. It's the world needs it and it's a great career. But the world also does need researchers. And maybe if you're someone who enjoys the kind of stuff that Dr. Liccardo and I talked about today, and maybe if you're nerdy in that sense as well, then at the very least, I think it deserves enough attention for all of you to think about it and to, if you'll excuse me, do research about it. And who knows, maybe you'll love it. Maybe you'll become the next Freud or Erickson or Calkins or Klein. And maybe you'll like the side of psychology that doesn't involve sitting on that couch listening to someone taking notes. And if that is how you feel, then I genuinely hope I've done my part to encourage you to seek it out further. And I do hope you consider it because it is a wonderful career path. I am very lucky to be where I am right now. And I really want people to have that similar experience. So that's all I really have to say about that. Thank you very much for all of your time.
Thank you so much, Johan. That was really very interesting. Again, now I'm sitting here thinking maybe I shouldn't do law. Maybe that's not for me. Maybe it's research psychology. Thank you very much. So yeah, everyone, that's everything presentation wise. We have gone a little bit over, but if anyone has any questions, now's the time to ask. We'll open the questions up for about 10 minutes. You can ask Dr. Liccardo specifically or Johan as well. Whatever you guys want to do, any questions you might have. You're also more than welcome to type it in the chat or to raise your hand or unmute yourself. Is it okay if I have a question that I want to ask? I don't know if it's okay for me to ask. But
Yes.
So, for example, I'm studying law, but I am majoring in psychology because I want to go into child law, but mainly, strangely enough, the research side of it, coming up with or trying to help create new legislation to protect children. So I felt it was important that I do psychology to kind of back that up. But now that I'm hearing all of this, research also sounds very interesting. When it comes to kind of deciding what you want to research, is it like a really open, like, is it pretty much open to anything? As long as it has some kind of aspect of psychology in it, I guess. So, for example, if I wanted to look into the ways that certain laws might affect children psychologically, is that something I could do and explore? I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. And that's definitely something you can explore. I wouldn't say it's as open as you can necessarily research whatever you want. Obviously, there are a few things to take into consideration with that, but the options for what you would like to research and what you would like to study are wide enough that you'll definitely find something that you would like to know more about. So if you want to do a study on child law and how it affects children and how it might be beneficial to change or adapt to that, you can definitely do something like that. And research is a very good way to learn the skills and how to do that in a practical way that gets academic attention.
Yes, I agree with Johan. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I think definitely. Yeah, Tamara, yeah, you start off, I suppose, with a question that you're interested in, and then the more you read the literature, the more you're able to refine your question. So the going through the literature definitely will help you hone in on a particular research topic that you you want to research. Yep.
Thank you. There is a question in the chat box. Someone asked, do we need a certain amount of volunteering hours for a master's application?
No, you don't. Definitely not. But obviously, if you have the more volunteering hours you have, it just makes your application stronger. But there isn't a certain amount of volunteering hours necessary. That's not one of the criteria. Yep.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? I would really recommend asking us if you have anything. I will quickly put Dr. Liccardo's information back on the screen in case you'd, rather email or reach out that way, if that's a bit easier.
Yes, like anyone is more than welcome to email me. Great, thank you, and ask me any questions that you have. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I think we'll wait for about a minute or two more if anyone does have any questions. But for anyone who doesn't, you're more than welcome to leave the session. Thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you guys gain some more insight into the field of research psychology and are kind of a bit clearer now on whether or not it's a path that you want to pursue in the future. And I do want to extend a very big amount of gratitude to both Dr. Liccardo and to Johan for making the time to, speak to you guys, share their experiences, and especially to Dr. Liccardo for putting together a beautiful little roadmap. Very, very interesting and very entertaining. So I really do appreciate that. And I think I speak on behalf of all students when I say thank you very much for taking the time to, do this for us.
Well, I think the pleasure is ours. Tamara, thank you to you and to the Psyche Society for giving us this opportunity, and like I said, for breathing new life into the society. And if there's anything else you need, please just email me and Johan, and we'll be very happy to help. Great.
Yeah, thank you from my side as well. I loved having this opportunity to just sort of talk about what I enjoyed about what I was doing. So thank you for giving me that platform, and hopefully it did inspire some people.
I definitely think it did. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone so much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and also stop the recording. So I need to figure out how to do. Okay, any last questions, anyone? Is there anything else?